Boys, girls, all my Trombaholics out there, welcome back to Other Robert. I'm Joe, and this is Fear the Walking Dead Season 2, Episode 2, We All Fall Down. What we got in this episode was probably the best episode of the series to date, in my opinion. This was really, honestly, a fantastic episode. Good for them, because it really lived up to what it is in its own right. A lot of people know Fear the Walking Dead is a much slower kind of Walking Dead, and a lot of people hate it for that reason, but I feel like there's so much that can be done with that. Even keeping it in that kind of slower, kind of slow burn mentality, because we've seen plenty of episodes of The Walking Dead do that, where it's a slower, kind of separate episode, and it works, and that's what we got here. This was kind of a separate type episode, like we saw with many Walking Dead episodes, The Grove, episodes like that, where it's just really one episode in a kind of a location, and then by the end of the episode, you're kind of moving on. And wow, this was quite the story. We meet the family of George on this deserted island, and it was. The story that was told was fantastic, because we're still at a point in the apocalypse where it's so early still, and it kind of addressed and they said it in the episode, but they said he wasn't a survivalist. That's it. Pretty much as a viewer, that's what he comes off to us. But the son had said self-reliant, and they weren't even necessarily bad people. They weren't bad people. George was a little twisted in what he thought was right, but they weren't bad people. Especially, I want to say George was not a bad person. He just kind of had his priorities out of check, and had a kind of a little twisted mentality on this world. But the writing for this episode was really top notch, and I think some of the best that we've seen. And they also still managed, and they probably didn't even need to have it in here. They probably could have had the whole episode without Strand. Not that I'd be an advocate for that, because I love Strand. I think he's one of the best ongoing things in the show. But they even had him a little bit, and they played up that storyline. And he's still that mystery type character, and it worked, having him in here just as kind of a backdrop, just to kind of continue that story. But the main story with George and his explanation of attached to the land, and even when the mother turned towards the end, and he kind of, what we can assume was sacrificed himself, or not even sacrificed, but just kind of gave himself to the way, was to the other side there. It was really twisted in its own right, but it really brought you on a journey from start to finish. It was a dark, slow burn, brutal type episode, and especially towards the end with the power pills and everything like that. And you didn't know George and his family before this episode, but you really become invested in his family before the end, and you want to see the best for them. And first 20-25 minutes, I didn't know. I didn't know where this was going. It kind of set the roots for what the rest of the episode was going to be, and I didn't know if I could get into it. But once the episode goes on, it understands why they really set the ground roots. And this isn't just going to be a forgotten side story. This is going to be something that will probably play into the mindsets of our main characters going forward from what they just witnessed. This was a really dark side story. And we're used to that in The Walking Dead, but we're not used to that in the Fear the Walking Dead. And these characters are certainly not used to it. So I've seen a lot of stuff online wanting to see these characters get more interesting, a lot of people are saying. I think this will kind of do it. I think this will start to add some depth to these characters. I'm not necessarily destroying the characters, but I'm saying this will add some elements I think will go over well with fans. And really, this was a step in the right direction for the show. I really do believe that. And I think really just so much has been done this season. The premiere wasn't the strongest premiere, but what they are doing is, I think these characters are finally starting to kind of grow on everyone a little bit. I think the first season it just really took a little bit, but I know Nick was a character that took forever. I liked Nick from the beginning, but he was kind of give and take with me for a little bit. But now, all these characters are really just growing on, and Nick was great in this episode. And I said it last season in the beginning. I said Nick can really become one of the strongest characters, and I think that's what we're actually seeing. Not physically, but mentally strong, and really has that mentality to go out and help everyone. And we saw that in the premiere, and we saw that here. And I think that ultimately might be his downfall, and that would be a pretty dark way to go. The one who wants to help everyone. I don't know. They seem to show a preview where someone was dying, so they didn't really show who it was, but I think it might be Nick. It would make sense storyline wise to have the person that going around to help everyone die. Not to mention in the actual Walking Dead, the original Walking Dead, it seems like Glenn might be going that way, and Glenn's kind of that character in the Walking Dead. So just really some interesting kind of points to make about the episode, and just to spare time, I'm going to just start to end it now. Really, really intense episode in its own right. Slow burn, and you knew something was going to happen with this family, but you didn't quite know what, and they led you there. And it was really, they started planting the roots, and then started getting more and more, and then fall out. And this was some pretty solid storytelling, especially for this show. I'm a fan of the show, but I think this just kind of picked up a little notch, and I hope we see more of this type of writing, because it seemed like they really had a grasp of what they were doing here, and it was very competent compared to some prior episodes we've had of Fear the Walking Dead. So that's it for me. Let me know what you guys thought of Fear the Walking Dead Season 2, Episode 2. Subscribe, because it takes around that much effort to do so. And until next time, you have been traumatized.